Hey everyone, welcome back to Wealthy Mentor Trading Sunday stream. Today I'll be looking at SPX, S&P 500, where I see my targets to the upside, to the downside. I'm also going to be looking at over our watch list names, such as like Apple, NVDA, Tesla, Netflix, Facebook, Zoom, Roku, Peloton, and a bunch of other ones. We did have a bit of a sell-off last week with the S&P 500, so a bunch of the names hit oversold territory on the longer time frames. So I'm going to be looking at those names and where I see my targets to the upside and to the downside, along with take profit areas. Right now, I do have a chart of ES, which is the S&P futures, and as you can see, we did close futures on Friday at 38.10. We are, trending higher, about 0.77% higher from Friday's close, so that is a good sign. I'm just going to switch over here to the S&P chart to give you guys where my direction would be to the upside and to the downside. But before I start that, be sure to check out the wealthymentor.net if you are interested in our group, Wealthy Mentor Trading. We do offer 1 month, 6 month, and yearly packages. We do offer watch lists, swing trading watch lists, options trading, entries and exits, notifications, along with market analysis, and a bunch of other things that will definitely help you in your trading journey. Okay. With that being said, also please give this video a thumbs up, share with your friends, and if you do want to join the group, the link is in the bio. Okay, guys. So here is a chart on SPX on the 5-minute scale. As I said, we are trending higher. It is not evident in this chart because this is not the futures chart, but I'll tell you exactly where I see my targets to the upside. Okay, so my first hurdle, obviously going into Monday, would be that 38.30 mark. That does not mean that's my entry point, right? That's my first confirmation for a trend change. My next confirmation for a trend change would be 38.50. And my third confirmation would be 3800. Sorry, 3880. The reason for that is because we are in a downtrend, right? Ever since 39.30, we did make a bounce right here, a staircase pattern, and once more over here, and once more over here. So we haven't been able to break this trend of lower lows right here. So my first confirmation would be the 30 mark, the 50 mark, right? And around the 65 to 80 mark. But preferably, I like to see the market above 38.80 so I can prove to me that the market is healthy and we are on the road to recovery after last week's sell-off. Okay, and over here, I'm going to switch over to the 1-hour chart to give you guys a better look. Actually, let's head over to, let's just stick to the 1-hour chart for here. We do have all-time highs, right? 39.50. So it wasn't much of a sell-off. However, it was a decent pullback. And to me, it was a great buying opportunity. So with the whole Corona bill, I believe Biden passed $1 trillion bill. That was definitely bullish for the market. A lot of times, the market just sits and waits for news like this. It confirms to investors that the market is healthy, and people like to see that. So it's definitely going to open up tomorrow with a bit of enthusiasm. So keep that in mind. We also have oversold conditions on a lot of big names that are correlated to SPX. So keep that in mind. So we're going to see a fairly large bounce going into tomorrow. But my key numbers, like I said before, are the 38.80 mark. Above that, I am looking at 3900 psychological. If we can bust through that, I am looking at this number right here at 39.30, which was a decent breakdown, which we couldn't hit. We hit resistance and we couldn't break it. As you can see here, 39.30 on the 1-hour chart, we got rejected here on the 17th of February. We got rejected here on the 19th and once more on the 24th. And ultimately, it dragged this all the way down, creating a double bottom scenario right here, which was back on the 22nd. So right here is a double bottom scenario. And as you guys know, if you guys are experts, or not even experts in technical analysis, you do know a double bottom scenario often gives you a bounce, right? So my first confirmation, and actually my final confirmation would be that 38.80 mark to know that we are heading higher. But my main one would be 39.30, because that would tell me that we have broken resistance here on our fourth attempt. Now to the downside, and let's just say, we're bullish on futures right now, and 9:30 rolls along, and there's economic numbers and whatnot, and there's some bearish news. Where do I see it to the downside? To me, like I said, we do have a double bottom here. We got bought up right here. We got bought up again right here at 3,800. So for me, 3,800 is strong support. If 3,800 does break, we're definitely in a bearish trend, and I do see us hitting 37.80, 37.60, and 37.50. I am going to switch over here to the 4-hour chart to give you guys a little more clarity of where I see us heading if we do break down from 3,800. Pretty much right here, guys. This can go down as low as 3,700, right? We do have support at 3,700. We also have a big drop here that hit 3,700 and even wicked down to 36.63. So if we do see a sell-off, I'm definitely looking at these areas right here at 3,700, pretty much in line with the previous sell-offs that we had back in January the 4th. Here was January the 29th, and potentially once more here in March. So keep that in mind, those targets to the downside and to the upside. Okay, so that is SPX and where I see it going next week, starting on Monday. Like I said, we do have a lot of oversold time frames, so keep that in mind. So a large favorable bounce is likely going to be underway. Okay, so that is SPX. The first name that I'm going to be looking at is Apple, AAPL. Here is Apple on the 4-hour chart. And as you can see here, we hit an all-time high at 145 on Apple back on January the 25th. And ever since then, we've been in a downtrend. Going into Monday, I am looking at that first confirmation of 124.50. We do have resistance here multiple times around that area, so that would be my first confirmation. It would not be my entry. My entry would be above 127.50 for potential take profits at 130.50. That would be my first take profit zone. If we do break that with convincing volume and market conditions, I am looking at that 133 and 135 mark. As you can see here, 130.50 has had resistance here back on February the 17th. We couldn't break it. We also had it here for support. So this is definitely an area for me to take profits, my first take profit area. However, if volume and market conditions are great, I would definitely double down at that 130.50 mark for its potential take profit at the 133 and 135 area. Now to the downside, I am going to switch over here to the daily chart to give you guys a clear outlook. And, if we cannot hold that 119 to 17, I would say 119 mark, I definitely see us going down as low as 114 to retest these areas here back on November the 24th, 2020. If we cannot hold that 114 mark, I'm definitely looking at this area of 109. That was support back on October the 30th. Now, guys, Apple does tend to trend with SPX. So another key indicator for SPX sell-off is Apple. So if SPX is selling off and we are going down below that 3,800 mark, definitely look for Apple to sell off as well and test these areas right here, like I mentioned, at 114 and 109. Okay. Now to the upside, as I said, that 127.50 mark is key for me. So look for that to break for entries on Apple. Okay. Next name, NVDA. We did have earnings last week, NVDA, and we're pretty much in that same area that we've been stuck in for months. We dipped down here based on market weakness. We did get a nice candlestick right here. Although this is a red candlestick, it is bullish. And the reason for that is because you can look at the pattern, the shape of it, right? We dipped as low as here, but got pushed up right here and closed right here, meaning this can signify, it can be a significant reversal candle for us to retest areas of 566. So again, that would be my first confirmation for an entry. I would not necessarily enter. A safer entry would be that 578 mark for potential take profits at 589, my first take profit area, and my second take profit area would be that $600 mark. And if you know market conditions are great, I'm definitely looking at that 610 and 615 a retest at all-time highs. To the downside, let me switch over here to the 4-hour mark, right? To the downside, I am looking at support at 535 to 530. If those areas break, I am looking at targets of 525, 523, and 519, which would also correlate with areas that we've had support many times before, right here on the 27th of January, again here on the 6th of January, you name it, guys, right here back in November. So this area of 520 does have a bunch of support. So if we do drop down, obviously SPX bombs on Monday, definitely look for NVIDIA to test those areas. But to the upside, 566 is that area that I'm looking at for my first confirmation and breakout for potential take profits at that 578 mark. Okay, so that is NVIDIA going into Monday. Another name that had quite the sell-off was Tesla. Tesla had a lot of volatility last week. Obviously, the market conditions had a big influence on that. So I am going to show you Tesla on the 4-hour time frame and where I see it going next week. Okay, here is Tesla on the 4-hour time frame. As you guys can see here, we did dip as low as 620 on Tesla. Huge candle wick down here. Great buying opportunity, right? We ended up closing just below resistance, which was at that 680 mark. The next 4-hour candle, big candle, huge volume. Look at the volume here, guys. Look at this volume. Not much follow through. However, still very significant bounce. So that bounce took us over the $700 mark. We did get rejected at 740, and we did close Friday's session at that 665 mark. So going into Monday, I am looking to see if 665 does hold. If it does hold, I'm definitely looking at a retest of 700, right? Which would be my first entry if it was a safe, conservative trader. And if that does break, I'm definitely looking at retests of 740. As you guys can see here, a lot of rejection here. Rejected once, twice, 3 times, 4 times before coming back down to test these areas again of 665. So 700 would be my first confirmation, right, for a trend change on Tesla. My next confirmation would be that 740 mark, a break of that. If we do break 740, I am looking at targets of 750, 765, 770, and potentially 800 retest. Okay. To the downside, if we cannot hold that 665 mark, I'm definitely looking at areas all the way down to 620 retest. However, before that 665 does break, that would be my first confirmation. My second confirmation to open up shorts would be that 650 mark for potential take profits at 640 and 620. So that is Tesla on the 4-hour time frame. I'm just going to switch over here to the daily time frame to give you guys basically a visual of where Tesla is. As you guys can see here, we're still very much bullish on Tesla. You know, we were stuck into this small channel in the 800s where we just couldn't move up or down until, you know, the market presented with a bearish posture and Tesla followed through, right? So now we are here back retesting these areas of December 18th, 2020. And to me, we are still very bullish on Tesla. However, that 665 mark is key for me. So let's just see how it opens up tomorrow. And if we can hold that 665 mark, like I said, I am looking at entries above 700 and 740 as key figures for Tesla. Okay, so that is Tesla on the 4-hour and the 1-day time frame going into tomorrow. Another name that I'm going to be looking at is Zoom. Here is Zoom on the 4-hour chart. Switch over here to the 4-hour chart. As you guys can see here, 390 is a key level for me. We did close just above support at 374. Going into Monday, I am looking at that $390 mark to break. If 390 does break, scalp trades to 400 for a quick take profit area. If you are a more of a conservative trader, definitely look over the $400 mark for an entry. For take profits at 410 to 415. If those areas do break, I am looking at a retest of 425. We did have resistance here back on the 17th, so keep that in mind. Guys, always take profits. These are targets. These are not just targets. These are history of where people have bought and sold. So, you know, a lot of times these targets do break to go to the upside. A lot of times we do get rejected because we have history here. We have history here. So don't always try to ride an entry till the very top. It doesn't work that way. To become a profitable trader, you consistently got to take profits. There are times where you let your winners run, and that also depends on market conditions. That also depends if there's a catalyst, there's an upgrade by an analyst. There are multiple factors in that scenario for letting your profits run. However, to become a profitable trader, you take small gains here and there and add up and you build your account. So with Zoom, if you are a more conservative trader, definitely look over the $400 mark for those take profit areas. Now to the downside, if we cannot hold 365, right, I would be my first confirmation. If we wick below the 355 mark, I am going to draw a line of support down here on Zoom, right? Just 1 second here, right? So this is an area for me that I'm going to be looking at. So my first confirmation would be the break of 365. Second confirmation would be the break of 355. This is where I would enter shorts, right? For potential take profits at that 342 area. Why there? We've had some price action over here, consolidated around this area, as you guys can see here. So this is an area where I take profits. If the volume exceeds, the selling pressure is strong, and the market conditions on SPX are terrible, definitely look to increase your position for a final take profit at the 325 mark. Okay, so that is Zoom next week to the upside and to the downside. Definitely look at Zoom. Another name I'm going to be looking at that had a fairly sizable pullback, that was ROKU. ROKU is the ticker. Here we are on ROKU on the 4-hour time frame. We did have all-time highs, very bullish, 486. And as I said, last week's market conditions were terrible. Big rejection candle here at that 480 mark. And ever since then, to the downside. So what are you going to do going into Monday? I am looking at that 420 mark. That's key for me. We had 1 rejection, 2 rejection, 3, 4, 5 rejections on a 4-hour time frame, guys. So from the 23rd to the 25th, was all an area where we could not break 420. So for me, going into Monday, I don't care about the 405, 410. Those are nice, right? That would give me some confirmation, my first confirmation, my second confirmation, but my entry would be that 420 mark, right? Keep in mind, guys, that don't necessarily just enter at 420. Look how the stock's moving. Look to see if there's volume. Look to see if there's what the market conditions are doing. Look to see if there's an analyst upgrading the stock, right? Because as you guys can see here, in this instance, you would have probably entered at 420 and bam, got rejected, right? So in areas like this, you would want to go down to the smaller time frame charts, right? The 5, the 15, the 1 hour to see exactly where we're trending. If we're getting rejections on the smaller time frames, and now you're looking at the bigger time frames and we close below 420, you know that this is an area where you do not want to enter. So definitely look to see what the market is doing, the volume, the smaller time frames to confirm an entry and nail the entry point. So 420 is a level for me to look at. If that does break, 430 would be my take profit area. 440 would be my second take profit area. We did have support here at that 440 mark multiple times. Big wick here, wick here, wick here, wick here. This all means that buyers have stepped in and are defending this line, right? So 440 would be my second area of take profit. Obviously, 440 breaks, I am looking at 445 and 450. Okay, to the downside, we do have support here at 374. So 374 is a key area for me. We did bounce off it once, twice, right? So 374 has to hold. If it doesn't hold, I'm looking at areas of 370, right? This is my first confirmation. Second confirmation to enter to the downside, short 370. So if 370 were to break, I'm looking at 365, 360, and the 350s for potential take profits on ROKU. Switch over to the daily chart to give you guys a broader outlook. Very bullish, guys, right? Still in an uptrend, right? This pullback was healthy. It retested this 385 area, which we bounced off once already on the 27th of January. So I'm looking for a second bounce, double bottom. 1, 2, and a W shape up, okay? So 385, keep that in mind, okay? That is ROKU on the daily and the 4-hour time frame. Another name that saw a lot of weakness was PTON. PTON is the ticker. I'm going to be keeping my eyes on this one. We saw fairly large pullbacks on Peloton, 10%, 12%, and we saw a lot of bounces. So going into Monday, if you guys guessed, 128, 129 is an area of interest for me. Why? Because this was the main rejection point, or one of the main rejection points for a demise going down. As you guys can see here, staircase pattern 1, 2, 3, and we still have not confirmed a trend going up, okay? Sorry, you know what you can say? This is your 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, right? And this is still considered not a breakout. Why? Is because we're still in a downtrend on the 5-minute chart, right? So keep that in mind. On the larger charts, if you look at the 4-hour chart, right, you would say, you know what, we're not bullish or we're not bearish, we're sort of neutral, right? So going back to the 5-minute chart, for an entry, to nail an entry, I would look at that 128 mark to say that, you know what, we are changing the trend on the lower time frames. And to me, that's significant enough as a day trader to enter at that 128, 129 mark for potential push to the 133 and 135 targets. Okay. However, if you are more of a conservative trader, I am going to switch over here to the 4-hour time frame. and let you know where I would enter as a conservative trader. Um, to me, it's that 150, 155 mark. Look at this. So much resistance here. I would say resistance from the 26th of January all the way to the 16th, almost a month full of resistance. Right here, rug pull. We thought we were going to get a breakout. Bam, rejected, stuck into this channel again. Again, another breakout. Bam, got rejected, stuck, and now we're pushing right back down. Okay, so if you are more of a conservative trader, definitely look at that 150 to 155 mark for a trend change on the higher time frames. But as you guys know, we do have swing trades and we have day trades. So as a day trader, I am looking at that 128, 129 mark. Now to the downside, I am going to zoom in here and let you know where I see myself taking trades to the downside. So as you guys guessed, 114 is an area level for me that I would definitely look at for potential shorts. I would not enter necessarily at 114. Why? Is because we got a huge buy-in right here, pull right back up. Again, here, support here, and support here. So would I enter at 114? No. Would this be my first confirmation? Yes. My entry would be at 110 for potential take profits at 109 and 106. Okay, so those are my areas on Peloton to the downside. Like I said, guys, a lot of these names are beaten up on the higher time frames, so definitely don't enter shorts unless you see the market definitely selling off below 3,800 with sell pressure. So keep that in mind before entering shorts on any positions going into next week. The market is your key. Okay, so that is Peloton on the 4-hour time frame. Another name that has been seeing weakness was AMD. AMD has some current news coming up on Wednesday. So keep that in mind. Make sure to check in on our current events on Wealthy Mentor Trading to get the lowdown of what's happening. Okay, as you guys can see here, 100 all-time highs. We have been trending lower ever since then. Push down here, held 85 for support. Try to retest that $95 mark, which was resistance back on the 22nd. Look at this big wick, huge rejection. So basically, I'm not necessarily going to look at this. I'm going to look at this. This is an area for me. We couldn't break it here. We also couldn't break it here. And now we see ourselves trending lower. This is another area of significance for me. We did have a sell, basically a sell-off to the $80 mark, but this candle right here is major for me because it shows me that buyers stepped in and are defending that $80 support, right? So for me going into Monday, I am looking at that $87, $88 mark for my first confirmation, and my entry would be above $88.50, $89 for potential take profits at $90.50 and $92.50. Also, my third area would be the $94.50 mark. To the downside, you guessed it, guys, again, $80 is a level of support that I'm looking at for that to hold. If that does not hold, I'll be looking at shorts below the $78.50 mark, all the way down to $77.50, $76, and $75, respectively, to the downside. Going over to the daily chart, you know, you could pretty much say this is consolidation. Anywhere from all-time highs at 99 down to $80. So we are stuck into this area. So if you are a swing trader, if you're trying to catch the bottom for a good entry, I would say $80 is a good entry as long as that holds. So going into Monday, if you see that mark holding along with market conditions are great, you got yourself a good entry point on AMD and potentially ride it all the way to the all-time highs or even at that $95 mark, which would make it great gain for you. Okay, so that is AMD on the daily time frame. Another name that is bullish that did have a sell-off was Square. Square most likely is connected to Bitcoin. Obviously, they're a major supporter of Bitcoin, and they have bought Bitcoin quite a bit. So when Bitcoin price rises, definitely look at Square to also follow through. And also, if you're looking at Square, make sure you're looking at other Bitcoin related names such as Mara and Riot and GBTC. All these names correlate to each other. And guys, there's a lot of opportunity uh, in that sector as well. However, I am here to talk about Square, and we do have all-time highs on Square at that 283 mark. Also, we did have multiple analyst upgrades over the past 2 weeks. Unfortunately, it did not pan out due to market conditions. So if market conditions are good next week, I am looking at that 245 mark. Rejected here and rejected here back on the 8th of January. As a conservative trader, as a smart trader, look at that 245 mark to break for potential take profits at 250, 255, 260, and 265. 265 does have resistance here on the 8th of February, and it was a major breakdown candle here on the 22nd of February. Okay, that is to the upside on Square. To the downside, I am looking at that 217 mark. We did have a big wick here. This is the 4-hour time frame, so these are big candles, right? And they hold a lot of value. So definitely look at that 217 mark. If that 217 mark gets touched one more time and it holds, that is your basically your confirmation that we held 217 twice, right? It would make a good entry. However, I would not necessarily enter at 217. I would like to see 222 break because we did have this as resistance here as well. So 222 would be my first entry or my first confirmation. However, if you are a swing trader and you're looking for that ultimate entry point, 245 is your number. To the downside, if 217 does break, I will be looking at targets of 217. If that were to break, I'll be looking at targets of 214, 210. And if we do receive a sell-off, definitely look at that $200 mark, 197 to be retested again. We did hit that back on the 28th of January, and we went to all-time highs since then. So keep your eyes on Square, look at the market conditions, watch Bitcoin, also watch Bitcoin-related names because Square tends to follow. Okay, that is Square on the 4-hour time frame. Another name I'm going to be looking at is NEO. NEO was one of those ones that also did not hold really well due to market conditions. However, it still held that area where it's of interest for me personally, which is that $46 to $43 mark, which is also a great buying opportunity. As you guys can see, this area of $43 has held here on the 23rd, held here on December 29th, right? Around here on the 2nd of December, and over here on November the 9th. So it is an area of major support, $43 to $40. So to the downside, I am looking at that $40 mark to break. If it does break, 37, 36 would be my areas of take profit. To the upside, I am looking at that $51 mark to break for potential scalps to 54 and 56. If 56 were to break, I'm definitely looking at retests of $60 and $62 on NEO. That's pretty much it, guys. All the names I'm going to be looking at. There's a lot of opportunity in the markets. Guys, one thing I really suggest to you guys, if you are a new trader or a seasoned trader, times like this when we receive a 1-2% pullback or 3% pullback in the markets, don't jump right in instantly because it could lead to a bigger picture in the markets that we could receive a bigger pullback. So always keep some cash on the side just for those entries. If we do see a pullback, don't just throw all your money in there. Like I said, have some patience. Wait, look at market conditions. See where the S&P 500 is going. Look at the news, what's coming out. Just don't throw your money as soon as we see a dip, because the dip is not always bought. As you guys can see last week, a lot of times where you could have entered on the dip, but it dipped lower and went up a little higher, but it was a continuation pattern to go lower. There was a lot of volatility this last week, and I expect the same this week. However, like I said, the whole coronavirus bill was passed, I believe is for $1.9 trillion. That's definitely bullish. And for people that are investors, they definitely look at that big news for the market to recorrect and touch all-time highs again, which I definitely see happening if we do get past that $3,900 mark. Okay, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends, subscribe, and also head over to the wealthymentor.net. Check out our trading group. Also follow us on Instagram. We release information, snaps, and post every single day. Definitely check us out. All right, guys, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Bye.